Hi gang. So today we're going to be making a note catcher for the different layers of the earth. And here's one from last year, and you can see that it folds so that the information for each layer is hidden underneath the fold. So you can use this as a way to quiz yourself and just to collect information about the different layers of the earth. So I thought this might be a fun way to do this that is a little different than just looking at a screen. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this together. You're gonna need 2 sheets of paper. So why don't you go ahead and get those 2 sheets of paper. You can use computer paper, which is what I'm doing, and I have 2 colors just so you can see the 2 different sheets of paper. But you can use 2 white sheets of paper, or you can use 2 sheets of lined notebook paper, 2 sheets of construction paper. It doesn't really matter. So go get your materials. You also need something to write with. All right, so we're gonna put 1 sheet on the bottom, and the sheet on top we are going to stagger about 2 inches down from the top edge of the bottom sheet, something like that. For this top sheet of paper, we are going to fold the bottom up to the top, but not completely to the top. We're gonna fold it so that we leave, again, about a 2-inch or so strip, and then go ahead and crease it really well. And then this should leave a little flap of your bottom sheet, and you're gonna then fold that up so that the folds on the both sheets of paper line up. So you should have 4 relatively equal, and if they're not perfect, it's okay, but 4 relatively equal little flaps. Now, I'm gonna draw using a Sharpie so it shows up really clearly in this video, but you can use a pencil. And we're gonna draw a big pie crust, or a big slice of the earth. And we're gonna leave little gaps in between each fold, but really all of this is gonna be connected. So we're gonna start at the surface, and we're gonna make a slice all the way down to the center of the earth. So when I draw the surface, I'm gonna draw the crust. And I'm gonna draw 2 different types of crust because we have oceanic crust, that's crust under the oceans, and continental crust, crust under the continents. So for my oceanic crust, I'm gonna draw it thinner. My continental crust, I'm gonna draw thicker. And if you want, you can put mountains on your continents. And if you want to draw in the ocean over your oceanic crust. Okay, then I'm going to leave a little gap. And I'm gonna go to my next fold. And here I'm gonna draw the next layer moving down towards the center of the earth, and that's gonna be the mantle. I'm gonna draw that as a big trapezoid. The next layer down is gonna look a lot like the mantle, except a little bit smaller, because we're getting closer to the center. And this is going to be our outer core. Again, it's going to look like kind of a trapezoid. And then all the way down at the center of the earth, we've got our inner core, and that's going to look like a little triangle. I ran out of room. Now the next step is going to be to label our different layers. And we're going to put the labels underneath the flap for each one, with the exception of the inner core. So that one we're going to do right next to it. So next to your smallest triangle, or a little piece of our wedge going down to the center of the earth, we're going to write inner core. Then I'm going to flip back that inner core fold, and you'll see you have some room now for information about the outer core. So here's where I'm going to label the outer core. Then I'm going to flip back the outer core fold. And I've got lots of space for information about the mantle. So let's label that the mantle. And then lastly, I'm going to flip back the mantle. And here's where I'm going to label the crust. But I'm also going to divide this up because we have two different types of crust. And so we want to have information about both types. So first I'm going to label that this is the crust. And I'm going to divide it up. We've got oceanic crust. And we've got continental crust. Now, for each of our layers, we are going to list the composition. What is it made of? So I'm going to list the composition of the continental crust. How thick is it? And this can be a range or an average. And its state of matter. Is it a solid, a liquid, or a gas? I'm going to do the same thing for oceanic crust. So I would have composition, thickness, state of matter. And I'm going to do the same thing for the mantle, composition, thickness, state of matter. Outer core and inner core. And then for each layer, we are also going to have some additional notes. So I'm on the mantle flap, but we're going to do this for all four of them. And we want to have additional notes or additional interesting things or important things about each layer. And we're looking for maybe 2 to 3 bullet points there. The last thing we need to do is we need to add in 2 layers of the Earth that are not characterized by their composition, but rather by how they behave. So I'm going to go to my mantle. I'm going to flip these back all up so you can see the whole thing. So on my mantle layer, I'm going to divide my mantle into sort of a top quarter and then a middle to top quarter. So I'm going to do that with dashed lines. The very uppermost part of the mantle behaves or acts together with the crust. So I'm going to draw a bracket connecting the fact that the uppermost part of the mantle acts with the crust as part of the lithosphere. Underneath the lithosphere, so now we're in sort of the middle to top part of the mantle, there is a weak layer. A layer that behaves very differently compared to the lithosphere. And this layer is called the asthenosphere. Asthenosphere. This is the layer that can kind of move. Even though it's a solid, it can move a lot like you can think of taffy moving, or road tar can kind of move over really long time scales. This asthenosphere can kind of flow. So for each layer, remember that we are looking for composition. What is it made of? Thickness. And again, that can be a range or an average. and then state of matter. Is it a solid, a liquid, or a gas? And we're also looking for some additional notes. 2 to 3 bullet points. Okay, happy foldables.